Yo guys, and welcome back for another Endfield video. So today we're going to be talking about min-maxing your units on the Dijiang spaceship. So this is going to be about automating as much as we can, as fast as we can, and I did a bunch of legwork so that way you guys don't have to. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So as I said, I did a bunch of the legwork so you guys don't have to. So let me show you guys what I've been up to. So basically what I've gone through and I've done is I've basically marked out all of the characters and kind of the most important buffs across each character. Feel free to take pictures of this. Keep in mind, this is only temporary, right? As we get new characters, I'll have to update this list and things will be likely to change. However, some things are going to stay the same. So like the clues, for example. So let's go ahead and start it out. So again, this is going to be just min-maxing everything when it comes to Dijiang here. So that way we get the most out of all of our automated processes. Okay, so this is what I'm taking for the optimal route for the control nexus. So all three of these characters have access to the 16% mood regeneration that we need to really keep our units going and doing their job. Another thing I want to mention though is that Flora and Dijiang are special in that they're not only best in slot here on the control nexus, but they're also best in slot when it comes to their growing option as well. So Dijiang will help you grow your fungal, your mushrooms and stuff like that, and then fluorite will help you with growing minerals. So again, these are going to be units that you can actually invest into and get the most out of when it comes to these automated systems. I do want to honorary mention Lai Feng here. So if you do have him, he does also give you the 16% buff, the same as these characters here, and then he'll also be usable in the reception room to help you get the third clue. Alternatively, all of these characters have the second place buff, the 12% instead of the 16 for the control nexus, and so you can slot any of them in if you do need to move one of the others out. Like let's say you're growing minerals and you need to move fluorite out, you can move one of these characters in and then still be relatively optimal in your nexus even without lifing. Okay, so when it comes to operator XP, these are going to be your best options. Special note is Lavatane actually has both the buff for crafting operator XP, but then also the ability to slow down the mood decrease for the operator room as well. So she's special here, and then also Wolfguard in particular is also special. He has the best in slot mineral growth as well, so he would be a good one to invest in if you want to potentially double dip, but any of these will work. Do keep in mind that Ember and Lavatane have the higher percentage, the 30%, and then Wolfguard and Zaihi both have the 20%, so the second place buff. For the optimal weapon XP, we actually want to use these three characters. They all have the 30% buff, but special shout out to both Gilberta and Pog in the fact that both of them have access to the slower decreased in mood. So this is going to be an exceptionally optimal way if you need to get weapon XP, which I imagine many of us will later on. Now, unlike operator XP, when it comes to weapon XP, we do have subpar options that we can use and swap in case we need to. Any of these units, they all have the 20% buff compared to the 30% in the optimal setting. All three of those units have the optimal, even Perlica, which is pretty cool. A special shout out here to Chen. Chen is best in slot in the growing room as an extra mineral grower. She does have the highest buff there as well, so she will potentially be someone that you can invest in and then move her into the growing room if you need to. Now, you may have guessed it based off of the previous two sections, but the optimal for controlling the mood in your manufacturing cabin is going to be Lavatane, Gilberta, and Pog, all with the 18% slow to their mood drop. Of course, these units are going to be like doubling up in their cabin. Alternatively, you can use both of these units to slow the mood in the manufacturing cabins, but to be honest, if you have some of those best in slot ones, you probably don't need to worry about this anyway because they can double dip on the other characters. So I would probably just go with just the regular manufacturing ones that I recommended before, but if you do need some alternatives in terms of XP, you can use these too. Just know they do have uses elsewhere. And in fact, you can use Snowshine in the control nexus as a best in slot, and Akakuri is best in slot as a mood decreaser in the reception room and is best in slot there for that. So when it comes to fungal growth, we're looking at Dijiang, who's the only one that I have, and then also Yvonne if you got lucky enough or you plan to pull for her. She will also be in this room, and really your only option options when it comes to fungal growth. Yvonne is also one of those special double units where she's not only the best at growth for fungals, she's also having the slower mood decline that you want in your growing room as well. So when it comes to our plant material, these are going to be what you use for your skills and things like that. So very, very important materials that we do need. We only have access to Last Right. And on top of that, she also has another unique buff where she's the only clue finder for clue 7. If you do have Last Right, you know, level her up and use her for her very, very unique skill set. She has 2 unique buffs and is the only character in the game other than the clue finders to have unique buffs in general. When it comes to mineral growth rate, we are going to be looking at the best 2, absolutely going to be Wolfguard and Chen with a 30% buff, and then Fluorite with the 20% will be the next best option and really the only other option. So all 3 of these will potentially be good ones for your growth chamber if you're going to be growing minerals. But do keep in mind that none of them have the slow mood. We will go over that in another part. So when it comes to slowing the decline of mood in the growth room, we have options with Ontal and Catcher. Both of them have the 18%, the same as Yvonne. And then of course Yvonne I don't have, but she would also be best in slot in this room. And again, she does have the double effect where she can be in the fungal growth and then also for the slow mood. So when it comes to the reception room, these are going to be our clue finders. Now, instead of Administrator, who obviously doesn't have any abilities, this is actually Lifang's spot. He's one of the only characters in the game I don't have. So unfortunately, we don't have him in the list, but do know that Lifang is for clue 3. So all these characters have their corresponding slot and their clue number. And then also don't forget that Last Right is clue 7. So again, very, very unique units across the board that does definitely add to their value if you want help finding these specific clues. However, I don't know that I would recommend actually using any of them at the moment. And to answer why, we kind of have to go to the next one. So these are going to be the clue buffers. So these characters increase your chance of getting a clue. And what I feel like I've noticed is by slotting these characters in, I feel like they've actually increased my chance of getting maybe random clues or something. I'm not entirely sure, but it feels like I'm getting a lot more clues than I was getting before. As you can see, if you just go down the list, so I have a clue here that I've gathered, clue, double clue. So again, it does feel like I'm getting a lot more clues, and even as I came in here, they had already found me another clue as well. I'm not entirely sure how this exactly works yet, and so I would probably need to test this more effectively. I had originally anticipated that this buff, this clue collecting efficiency, would actually only work for the clue finders, but I think that that might not be the case. Although again, I'm not entirely sure. If anybody does know, feel free to, comment down below and provide any information you might have to try and help everybody out. And then finally, when it does come to our slowing mood in our reception room, we do have access to our Delia, and I didn't mention this before, but she obviously does have the double buff as well. So she not only buffs the clue finding, but she also lowers the rate at which your mood drops. So very, very useful unit. It should probably always be in your reception room. And then we have Akakuri, who has the same mood drop slow rate as our Delia here, and so she's our only other option in case you want to do that, which is the reason why as you guys have seen, I use Ardelia, Estella, and Akakuri as my clue team. And the reason for that is because, like I said, I do feel like the clue buffers seem to work just passively. And if it does work like that, then I can get both of them getting the massive clue buff finding, and then Akakuri slowing the rate at which the mood drops in the room. This is the mood team that I use and probably will be using for the foreseeable future unless new information comes to light. All right, well, hopefully you guys found that information helpful. If you guys did, like the video down below. Any comments if you guys have any questions, or if there's anything you guys want to talk about down there. Subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see more Endfield content, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.